This is Grassroots Analytics Insider. Today we're here with Sadie and Joey. Thanks for coming on, you guys.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Yay! Can you tell us a little bit about yourselves and then how you got to GA?
Sure. I'm Sadie. I'm the Vice President of Data Science here at GA. I've been here for 5 years, last four on the data team. I started out on campaigns as a GA client for a couple of cycles, and then came to GA as a list puller, and then the rest is history.
Wow.
Yep. Hi, I'm Joey. I'm the Chief Data Officer here at Grassroots, and I'm actually a very early employee of GA. I started working here right out of college. I was still in college when I started, but I started around 2017, and I've been here ever since.
Nice. 10 years. Nearly.
Nearly 10 years.
And he's not that old.
I'm pretty young.
Okay. What did y'all study in college?
I was a political science major.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
Likewise,
Yes,
political
me too.
science.
I think it's really interesting that you both ended up on the data team and having data jobs after a political science major. So can you just tell us like a little bit about how you got started working in the progressive space in general?
Sure. When I was in college, I wanted to go to law school. I think as a lot of political science majors start out thinking they want to do. But after taking a pre-law class, I knew it wasn't for me. And there was actually a really exciting opportunity in my home congressional district. There was a Democratic primary. It's like the first Democratic primary in over a decade.
Wow.
And there was 10 candidates running. And so I sort of, don't tell Chadra, but she was the closest to my house at the time. So I emailed, and I got to be part of the campaign. I started on the finance team in 2018. So it was just a very exciting time to work in campaigns in general.
For sure.
Great year. And though we did not prevail, Tedra ran again in 2020. And I got to come back and work in the finance shop.
Cool.
And then came to GA.
Yeah, and so Tedra was a GA client.
Yeah, both years.
So did you kind of meet Joey through that?
Yeah, I was a call time manager. I think my finance director mostly talked with Joey, but Joey and Danny, and I think Henry too, were just like sort of the legends behind the list for me. Yeah.
Cool. And Joey?
Yeah, I mean, my path is a little less a little more serendipitous and less of an interesting story. But I basically was, looking for an internship or a job while in college, and I think Danny connected with the political science newsletter at at GW, excuse me, where I went to college, and I literally just started as an intern doing some very basic research projects and some various just kind of like miscellaneous tasks, and it was basically a one-man operation at the time, that one man being Danny. And just as the years went on, he had more and more for me to work on, and when I did graduate, he asked me to stay on full-time, and yeah, I definitely remember working with the Tedra Cobb campaign. I think Sadie's right that we didn't necessarily interface at the time, but there weren't many years before like Sadie applied for a job here, and then that's obviously
right. Totally. So you both kind of started in more client services roles back then when you were first kind of working for Danny. Can you tell us about kind of your exposure to data before GA and then how you ended up as a data leader on your team?
Sure. Yeah, I think when I came to GA in 2021, there wasn't too many people on the campaigns team, especially. So everyone was, knee deep in the data. You had to be. And it was really clear, like when I started, like if I wanted to succeed at GA, like learning about the database was like the best way to do it. And being a call time manager, like you think about targeting a lot, and like your candidate's strengths or like the topics that that she's really good at talking about or her background. So you're thinking about like. I was always thinking about GA list of like, okay, Tedra like did this, that, and firefighters and all this stuff. So I thought it was really interesting to like kind of see behind the curtain. And so I was just really curious about, how some of the variables were made or like how some of the data work was done. And GA sort of at that time, it was very much an open meeting policy where if you want to be part of a meeting, you got to be part of the meeting. And so when I expressed interest in the data, they basically just told me to start coming to the data meetings. And yeah, that was kind of how I got my foot in the door, and they haven't kicked me out yet.
Great.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to really recall exactly what happened back in the day, but I think that the truth is that like when I first started, I was doing like client facing work and kind of servicing the clients and campaigns, and there was so few people at GA that like I couldn't like wait around for Danny to be done with whatever thing to help me with the database. Like to get my work done some days I just would have to figure out like what was wrong with this particular code or what was wrong with this particular data set, and like I just didn't have anyone. I mean, I literally didn't have anybody to ask or to fall back on for a number of years. So yeah, you spend enough time, enough days doing that day in and day out, you get pretty familiar with the database and the code base. And when GA first started and there was like 3 to 4 people who worked here, like we had to step up in certain ways to like better service the data and better service the database. Like we figured it out and we were successful, but now that we have a larger base of knowledge and a larger base of just like people and experiences, I mean, it's just like kind of more tools in our toolbox, so to speak, and more different like perspectives we can draw from. And even like from a recruiting standpoint, like we all have, as opposed to drawing from the collective 4 networks of the 4 employees here, there's 70 plus networks that we can like recruit from and find, so I guess GA is just a lot better positioned to do cool things and make cool tech products and make, cool data models and all that kind of stuff. So that has obviously enhanced like my own and Sadie's and the team's experiences and knowledge bases, and it's like just had an equal effect on the company at large.
Oh, for sure. I think you're describing like when we were the 4 of us back then, it was like everybody kind of had to do everything because if that one person was busy, like that thing needed to be done. And so like you were both servicing clients, but then also needed to understand and execute on the database yourselves. And now you're specialists because we have a whole other team that is doing client services and engineering software.
Yeah.
And I think that's such a cool and unique growth that you both got to experience. So y'all touched on how your team shares the responsibility of like upkeeping the database and how you both really like stepped up for that role when you saw it needed to happen. Can you talk about like how the database powers the products and how has that responsibility changed over time?
Yeah, I think the responsibilities changed over time, like as the industry's changed. Like I mentioned, when I was working on campaigns, it was all about call time. That's like 60% of your money was supposed to come from call time. It was all right. Did the Emily's List training is all about call time. Then I come to GA and email was like kind of all the buzz, and so I learned a lot about email and that as a product, and then P2P came along, and then Click Collective comes along, and then Mail comes along, and so I think our responsibilities have just like grown as our products and offerings have grown, and we've had to like meet the moment as like the industry's changed. I think we've done a good job at doing that, and also doing a good job of like sort of anticipating some of that stuff, like the ideal for Mail coming from the data itself, or building P2P as we're doing building the bicycle as we're riding it, kind of thing. So
cool.
Yeah, I mean, the data basically it's kind of like a symbiotic relationship between the products or services and the data. It's like in some cases, like Sadie just mentioned, that the product or service or idea came from something we noticed in the data, and then in some cases like feedback from a particular campaign or even fundraising strategist on our team, it influenced what we had to do with the data. So yeah, I don't know, it's good to have that like back and forth always, and it's not a one-way street.
Yeah, oh for sure. I think you both kind of just defined, without saying the word, how innovation looks for us at Grassroots. We talk about it a lot. We've talked about it on this podcast a lot, and like I think it's cool that the two-way street is like sometimes coming from what we have already. Can you talk about how your personal skills changed during that change between the data and the products?
Sure. Like I mentioned before, like being part of the data meetings, something that was like a little bit intimidating at the time, but I'm so glad it happened this way. Is we used to, do you remember this? We used to take turns being the actual person to type on the computer and like handle the mouse. We sort of huddle around like this massive like Mac computers, like 7 computers in one.
Big computer.
And then the big computer, as it's called. And even though like I had no idea what was going on, and maybe Danny and Joey were just dictating code to me,
Yeah.
but like that's genuinely how I learned. It's just like they were dictating things to me, or they made we would take turns setting the agenda, take turns preparing the data set for whatever we were going to work on. So I've just like learned on the job GA's data, and partly throwing the baby out with the bathwater, partly just watching Danny and Joey work.
Yeah, I mean, I did kind of forget how that happened.
Yeah.
That was, I mean, we were, I don't know if this is how like a lot of data teams or tech teams operate generally, but it was really valuable for like the 4 or 5 of us in that room to just like, always be kind of aware of what each other was doing, and be like we could problem solve so well together. I don't know if I kind of don't really know if we answered your initial question, but about what was it? Personal skills?
Personal skills. How have they changed?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's with every iteration of like the new suite of like services, we've had to add like new wrinkles, and every time a new wrinkle we throw in there, it's like we're learning how to do something in a faster, more efficient way. I would say like not only are we going out into like different avenues, but we're kind of taking like different modes of transportation to get there almost. So, just like constant evolution. I definitely feel like my skills when I first started here at GA, like I had a good understanding of like politics and how, campaigns worked. And I was like really into, and I think pretty good at like customer service stuff.
Yeah.
And like taking that, mindset and approach to like, I want to view data through the lens of like campaigns and politics and customer service. I mean, it sounds weird. Like you don't really think about those things in congruence that much, but really it's like visualizing the end result of like what a client's going to see. Yeah.
I think the other thing that sort of the unsung hero of like our sort of education here is like, I also feel like I've just learned so much about every channel of fundraising through the data. Like if I needed to, if you plot me down like on a campaign somewhere, like I do feel like I could probably run a rough and tumble email program or text program.
Yeah.
I've had to like write mailers. Like I just feel like I feel like we get a good like view of the data like all the way through. Like Joy was saying, like from the data that we receive, we clean it, we do all our analysis, we send it to the campaigns, and we see how they actually use it, and then the end result, and then the data lifecycle sort of starts all over again. It gets back to us. That's really cool.
I think like you can learn and understand a lot of things about data science in like a general like theoretical sense, but the applied life or the applied sense of how it's being used here, that's a little bit of a harder, like a niche thing to understand. And that's like really a great value that we have as like the data science team at GA, is we have access to just so much feedback and so many people who can, constantly be giving us insights.
Yeah, totally. And I think that like your background from political science degrees, working on a campaign, like caring about the progressive space probably enhances that as well. Can you like mention a skill that you have now after these 5, 7, 8 years of working in data at GA that would really shock you when you first started?
Oh, I think most of them would shock me probably. Yeah, I think the easiest, like the one that's definitely the most obvious is just like coding, like hard skills that I've learned. back in the day, I used to be Stata Stack, so I do feel like a mini Stata expert. Said no one ever, but us.
Said us.
Yeah, and as I think as GA's gotten more sophisticated in our data and our stack has gotten more sophisticated, we've definitely learned a lot more about, like SQL, Python, Git, all of the Jira, all of the different tools that come. I could name so many tools. All the other tools that, more like the science part of it. I think both of us would probably consider ourselves like, oh man, never. I was gonna call us subject matter experts, but I'm definitely more confident on like the subject matter aspect. But throughout the years, and as technology is changing too, now we have AI. I feel like it really closes the gap of maybe I can't build exactly what I want to, but with Claude and AI and stuff.
You understand what needs to happen.
Yeah, you become a little bit of like a product manager. But that closes a lot of the gaps too. So.
Wow, cool.
Yeah, I mean, all the hard skills, obviously, I agree with that. I think too, if I were to envision, I mean, the way our team works, we work very closely with a handful of data engineers, and there is a larger tech team at GA, but the data team itself is kind of its own thing, and we work kind of in parallel, but definitely independently from the rest of the tech team. And I think if you were to have told me coming out of right out of college that I'd be with the help of others directing and planning full sprints for a data team, I think I get the specific answer to your question is the road mapping and the project management too. I mean, that's something I would have had no sense of where to start.
Sure.
In 2017.
Right. Do you have advice for folks that are skeptical that on-the-job training or on-the-job learning is still a thing?
Yeah, I would say I'm coming up on 5.5 years at GA. So at this point, I've been here longer than I was in college, and it just makes you putting that in perspective of formal education is such a small part of your overall education, and just my advice would be to follow your curiosities. That's certainly what I did and how I got here on the data team, and just accept that you're going to be a lifelong learner no matter what industry you're in.
Yeah, I mean, everyone has a different style of learning, and I mean, if you think about medical doctors when they're in med school, there's classwork, but they spend so much time in residency and working, and I'm not saying we're doctors obviously, but it's almost, you could say, I mean,
we save lives in different ways.
We save lives in a way, but I don't know, it is not traditional classroom learning, but it is a well established way that people learn is by doing stuff and having experiences, and I mean, I don't know how you could be really skeptical of it. It's a pretty well, I think, proven to be effective. But again, like I said, everyone has different learning styles. There are definitely people who like that classroom setting, and that's available to them. But I don't know.
Yeah, I think we recently talked to Madeline on the podcast, and she was talking about how everyone who's getting a political science degree wants to be a lawyer, experienced. And I think that is such a clear school to you're doing the job. And this is kind of a very different path from a political science degree. And it's harder to conceptualize learning on the job for data science, I think. So that was a very good thought. Do you have advice as managers for helping people learn on the job?
I think I probably have a unique perspective on this just because Joey is my manager. But I was mentioning before, I would just say giving your manager or your direct report, giving them a lot of opportunities to use the skills that they're learning. That's just, for me, that was how I learned, is I just use that skill every single day. I flex that muscle every single day, and I callus it and all of that stuff. So just giving people opportunities to apply the skills that you're teaching them.
Yeah. I mean, this kind of is goes back to my previous answer, but I think you have to have like honest conversations with your direct reports on like how they like everyone learns differently, like I just said. So maybe somebody like, I don't honestly remember, Sadie, like the early days if this was the case, but maybe some people want you to like sit down and teach them like, I definitely taught lots of people
Oh,
at
sure.
GA, just like sitting down with them in front of a computer, like, this is how you use Stata, this is what Stata is, this is blah, 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 blah. And like some people find a lot of value in that. And then some people, yeah, you just gotta, so I think to everybody, you know, to make them like an effective employee or contributor, like needs the opportunity to work and like fail on their own. I think that's a big piece of advice I would actually have is you have to let people fail sometimes, in like in a way that won't be catastrophic or like that won't, you know, damage their confidence. Yeah, failure is a great teacher. So it just understanding like what your direct report needs from you in terms of like teaching and guiding, and then obviously setting them up to like try and safely fail.
Right. That's great advice.
I'll say like he so leads by example in terms of the failure. I'm kidding. Just kidding.
Can you both tell us about a time that you were most proud of your impact?
Yeah, I think like anytime our clients win, it's like really special. That's like the easy answer, but it is kind of the whole point of all that we do is for our clients to win. So seeing them win, seeing them like actually in office and doing things is always like very cool.
I feel like what makes me proud is like, in addition to like seeing, you know, Sadie or other various people who I maybe had like onboarded or like taught certain skills, like apply them in ways that I wouldn't have thought of is always interesting. Like there are certain things that I know that like Sadie learned from me in terms of like technical skills, and then I sometimes will be like sitting next to Sadie or working on something, and I'll see her do a different maneuver on like on a particular program or code, or and I'm just like, wow, like I wouldn't have thought of that. That's pretty cool. But then like outside of just Sadie or people who I've taught, like seeing various like variables or data models that we worked on and came up with, like applied through new technology that, you know, the software team is working on, and just like the premise that, you know, our algorithms and models and all that cool stuff that we've worked on for all these years is being applied in like a new exciting software is definitely a source of pride for me.
Yeah, definitely.
That's a good answer.
Can you talk about how you lean on a GA pillar in your work?
I'll definitely say that Stars Teach, Rookies Care, We All Grow is like the story of like my career here at GA. Like when I got here, obviously like knew absolutely nothing about the database and querying and coding and all that stuff, and to be able to learn from the people who like actually built the thing is really cool. Like Danny and Joey are definitely the seeds that sprouted and like taught us all how to use it, which is really cool. And then now that I'm, you know, been in this role for a few years and I can like pass on their knowledge to other people, it's really cool. It's really cool to be in the sandwich of the Stars Teach and the Rookies Care.
Oh, that's really nice.
I would say I really like Eat the Frog as like a personal like way of organizing myself and doing stuff. Like with data science in particular, sometimes there are just tasks or like projects that are just a pain and a hassle, and like Eat the Frog, I don't know, it's a premise I think a lot of people are familiar with, but it just means like doing the hardest thing. Just do the hardest thing that you have to do, basically. And like, I don't know, I'm pretty good about that. Like I try really hard to not put stuff off. And it, like in data science, like I was just saying, it can be a big like lifesaver to adopt that philosophy.
Yeah. What are you feeling most hopeful about right now?
Oh, wow.
I mean, I feel pretty.
Yes.
I feel pretty hopeful that like Democrats are going to win big in the midterms.
Yeah.
But I've been let down by Democrats before, so, and I probably will be again. So.
Right.
Yeah, I was gonna say the same thing, but with the Knicks. I was kidding. I'll say something that makes me feel hopeful, and it's definitely not because Elliot's right there, but seeing young people come to GA, as I once was a young person at GA, it always gives you like a renewed sense of energy to see like other people's excitement, and like you definitely, like when you work in the space for a while, you can take stuff for granted, like how cool it is, like how cool the clients are, like how cool the people coming to the office are, the events. So it's nice to enjoy it through fresh pair of eyes.
And we're still very young.
We're super young.
Yeah, so that
really
helps
young, extremely young.
Yeah.
No, they'll know Joey and I are best friends already, or do we have to say that? Okay, good.
Okay.
Good, as long as that's clear.
Okay, well, thank you both for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
It was great to hear some of the past of GA that I've experienced too. Very exciting.
True.
Yeah, Julia was there for all of that
True.
before me.
I was. Thankfully not doing the data that didn't really take for me. So
How many computers have you had at once? 2, 3?
Oh, like most computers at once?
Yeah, at
I've
once.
probably gone through half a dozen computers at GA because we would buy like refurbished ones that weren't always refurbished correctly, I don't think. And then I would use them to the stress that I used to put on these computers under was abnormal.
Well, I remember my first day, they were like, don't turn your computer
Don't
off.
turn your computer off because it might not.
Do
come
not
back on.
ever close your laptop. I was like,
Yeah. Anyway.
all right, well, thank you.
thank
All right,
you. Bye.
thanks.